You know how your taste buds change every few years or so? Well, a couple of years ago, I started to give action movies a chance. Listen, before you start judging me, I judged myself. I was like, you need to get over the idea that they're going to be too macho, too punchy, and you're going to start to watch action movies, okay? So, of course, when I went onto this foray of action adventure spy movies, that included my education about Mission Impossible, and I have since been devouring the Mission Impossible franchise because truly they are a unique experience all on their own within the genre themselves and within movies in general. So when I saw that the final reckoning was upon us, I ran to the movie theater to see it on the biggest screen possible. And you know what? This movie delivers. This is the kind of movie that demands you watch on the big screen. And I will say respects you for your time and effort of going to the movie theater. If anyone is going to make that movie ticket worth your time, it is Ethan Hunt and the whole IMF gang. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily, or La Movie Mija. I'm a part-time filmmaker, full-time movie lover, and this is my spoiler-free review of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This movie is big in every sense of the word. I'm talking production value, stunts, cast, story. It feels epic and big and a fitting send-off for a franchise 30 years in the making. Continuing where the story left off in Dead Reckoning, The Final Reckoning follows Ethan Hunt and the IMF team as they race against time to find the Entity, a rogue artificial intelligence that can destroy mankind. The film is also directed by Christopher McQuarrie, and it stars Tom Cruise, Haley Atwell, Paul Clemente, Hannah Waddingham, Tremel Tillman, Isaiah Morales, Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, Greg Tarzan Davis, Katie O'Brien, Angela Bassett, and so many more. What I've always really admired about the Mission Impossible movies is the specific tone that they go for in their films. There is this thread of goodwill and the belief in the good in other people and the belief that other people are going to choose good at the end of the day. It strikes me as different because I felt like my idea of Mission Impossible was always that it was going to be more akin to James Bond and like 007, but it's actually Michael Scarn, Michael Scott's alter ego that he has on The Office. That version of the spy is more akin to Ethan Hunt, and I really love that. I love that there's this thread of earnestness and goodwill and this sincerity about these movies where they feel like no matter how threatening or action-packed, and there are some drama and sad moments, but there's always this like outlier of hope that holds it all together. And that is true of this movie. I think within the context of the franchise, this film definitely felt a lot more somber and maybe even melodramatic at times. No, definitely melodramatic at times. But it never crosses over into the tragic. And that's where the film starts to take shape as this like meta narrative and this escapism, kind of like the It's a Small World ride if that was turned into an action movie. And I loved it. I ate it all up. The melodrama, the somber attitude, the whispered tones that some of the actors are talking in for most of the movie. I think it's a good juxtaposition to those big sweeping action-packed moments. And I really liked that they were able to thread it all together in a way that felt like they were paying homage to everything that has happened over the last 30 years in these movies, while like still giving us a good final movie itself.
Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to like and subscribe to my channel. You get one new movie review from me every single week, and you can follow me at Movie Mija on all the things. This video will not self-destruct in 5 seconds.
I do think that this movie does rely a lot on the previous films. Not only is it using like montage sequences to remind us constantly of what's happened before, it's also calling back to a lot of characters and little Easter eggs throughout the movie. So I can't really say that this movie stands on its own, but it's on purpose. It knows that it is standing on the shoulders of the giants of the previous 30 years of films, and I'm okay with the decision to include so many different bits and pieces of those previous works in this final epic send-off. So yes, there is a lot of callbacks to the previous films. I walked into this movie really nervous about like, oh no, I'm not going to remember every single thing and they're going to make it too complicated. I was not a fan of Dead Reckoning. I did not like their turn into AI as the enemy. I feel like they didn't really know how to talk about AI. They were trying to do something with tech as the enemy, but they really didn't nail it for me. And I felt like that movie got so lost in the sauce and it was just not a satisfying watch for me. So knowing that that was going to be a continuing part of the story for this one, I was nervous. But, big but, I think they understood what their limitations were talking about tech in the last one, and they decided to go somewhere more metaphorical. This is like more of a metaphorical exploration of AI and this idea of like hijacked realities and the entity being something that's more of like a belief system that has infiltrated humanity. And that, I think, is a much more compelling angle to tackle the idea of AI being a big bad in the Mission Impossible world. And it feels really on the nose with like things that are happening right now. And I really like that they took a step away from the super technical and went more like metaphorical, because I feel like that will give this movie more of a staying power and doesn't make it so dated, because we're on the precipice of a big change with AI. Like Google just dropped this news today. I don't want to get into that, but knowing that this movie is in conversation with those conversations around AI, and AI, is also threatening the film industry itself. So there's this like meta commentary on the idea of like AI destroying humanity, and humanity within the film and its metaphor is the film industry, and AI is quite literally the big bad of movies. The one thing I do have to say about the plot itself is that there is a lot of exposition dump. There's going to be things and voices talking at you for lengths of the movie, but those are also interjected with like these really cool cinematic, like music driven non-dialogue moments, and it kind of feels like the movie knew your brain needed to take a breath. Like, here's all these words and all these plans and all this plot that's about to happen, and then big cinema. And it can get a little confusing at times too, because it does the thing that most spy movies do, where someone is talking about the plan and then they're showing you the plan as it happens, and you're not sure, are they showing me what's about to happen? Is this actually happened, or is this an imagined happening? You know what I mean? So yeah, the plot does become a little cumbersome. It does become work at some point, but the payoff that we get to in the third act, all roads lead to hell, yes. Now, this wouldn't be a Mission Impossible review if I didn't talk about the stunts themselves. And I gotta say, I was thoroughly enraptured. Is that a word? I don't know, but it needs to be one, because that's how I felt watching Tom Cruise do these death-defying stunts. And I'm sorry, no matter how you feel about Mission Impossible movies, action movies in general, you have to give it up to them, because this was... I mean, it's a shame that this movie is not eligible for the stunt like Oscars that are about to be introduced in the following year, because holy hell, they are phenomenal. And they're not gimmicks. They're not just like thrown in. Like, the way that they're able to weave them into the plot has always been a shining moment for Mission Impossible. But I also really admire the filmmaking prowess that goes into what we're seeing. There are underwater sequences in this film that require that the entire filmmaking underwater team had to make up their own sign language to be able to communicate underwater. And then you see Tom Cruise on the plane. I'm sure you've seen the trailer or the poster. That does not do it justice. That does not do what this man does in this movie justice. And it is just awe-inspiring. It's awesome. That's why they made that word awesome, to talk about moments like Tom Cruise on that plane. And it's not just Ethan Hunt. Everybody gets in on the action. I really love the big ensemble cast in this film. You get to see some old characters, some new characters. Everyone has their shining moment. And as long as this movie is 2 hours and 51 minutes, they better have had time for everybody to have their shining moment. And you know what? They did. Everyone had their shining moment. And no matter who you're a fan of or who you're rooting for in the movie, there is like these really cool moments that everyone gets to just stand there and shine. And I think that is really telling of a successful like send-off film like this one, is that everyone gets that moment to really solidify their mark in the Mission Impossible franchise. It also looked so cool. It looks so cool. It sounds so cool. Did you know that the Mission Impossible theme music is actually inspired by the Morse code for the letters M and I? So think about it. Mission Impossible theme is dun 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 dash dash dot dot dash dash dot dot M M M I M I. I don't know about you, but I'm a band geek, so that blew my mind. And the way that the sound is tackled in this movie is delicious. We get some really cool sequences without any music that are focused on the sound to help exemplify the drama of the moment and the action sequences that we're seeing. But then the music comes in as well, and there's just these really cool pushes and pulls throughout the movie that make it feel so well balanced and provide a really lovely movie-going experience. But back to the visuals too. This movie loves a lens flare. Okay, Christopher McQuarrie loves a lens flare. I love a lens flare. We got some Dutch angles. We got some really cool lighting where there's shade up top, shade on the bottom of the face, and just the strip of light across the eyes. It is so overproduced. This is not reality. This is heightened reality, and I love the look of it. I love the costume changes throughout the movie. They were like Barbie dolls. They go to different environments and they get like their Arctic costumes. They get their Indiana Jones costumes. Like, there's so many cool moments. This seems like a creative team's dream to be able to tackle so many different environments and spaces and just be able to give us this really visually stunning epic. We've talked about the stunts, but let's talk about the fight choreography, because something that I admire about the way Mission Impossible tackles like fight choreo is that it has like this aversion to gunfights. Like, I don't think there's a single gunfight in the first one, and then all the rest, like, it doesn't seem like there's many shootouts. They try to lean more into the muscle, and anytime there is a gun introduced in an action sequence or fight sequence, the goal is to disarm and throw away. It's never to like use the gun on somebody else. And what's great about that is that it makes for much more interesting fight sequences. Like, if guns were always the solution, then you wouldn't have this really cool action stunt choreography. And going back to my aversion of action movies and fearing that they would be too macho and I would never see enough women represented in them, Mission Impossible, interestingly enough, always has a good amount of women present. And this film in particular, there's a good amount of women. There's a range of types of women, and they're not just in the lead ensemble cast or the like supporting cast. They're in the background. There's women everywhere. There's women that exist in this world, and that sounds like a very low bar minimum requirement for a movie to meet. But you know what? I've been disappointed before. My fears can be confirmed by a lot of other action movies, but gladly not Mission Impossible. Overall, I found Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning to be a very fitting farewell to this end of an era of Mission Impossible movies. Is this the final Mission: Impossible? We don't know, but I feel like there was such a generosity of spirit of sharing the wealth, of sharing the action, sharing the limelight within this movie that I feel really excited for what comes next if they do continue it on. But if they don't, what a way to tie everything together. I mean, the right amount of melodrama, of hope, of good feelings, of callbacks, of threading convoluted stories and helping get them to a nice, pretty bow. This movie does a lot of things right, and I really enjoyed it. And I know some people are going to gripe about the runtime. 2 hours and 51 minutes is a lot of time to commit to a single movie at the movie theater. However, I might offer you pure, high-octane entertainment with a soul. This movie has so much heart and soul and passion, and it just comes through in the most earnest and honestly heartwarming way. I loved it. I loved how big it was, how ridiculous it gets. I loved the melodrama of it all. Everything about this movie just sits right in the Mission Impossible stew for me. All of the bits work together quite well, and I just really like how it all came together. But let me know what you thought about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. How does it fit into the overall saga of Mission Impossibles? Where does it land on your ranking of the films? And do you feel like this was a fitting send-off for this era of Mission Impossible? Let me know in the comments below. And once again, thank you so much for checking out my video. I'll see you next time. Bye!